Hey everybody, welcome to Not a Cigar Show. Okay, maybe a little bit. I'm Fred Rui. This is episode 52. It is not episode 52. You guys know this by now. I make up all the episode numbers, but the number does have something to do with the guest. So if you figure it out, let me know. You don't win anything, but you get bragging rights. Look, you wanted a guest who knows every corner of this industry. You've got one. Some guests give you stories. Today's guest gives you receipts. I don't even know where I came up with that. It sounded really good in my head. And now that I say it out loud, I really don't know what that means. But today's guest will bring you depth, detail, plenty of fire. I guess you're going to walk away probably a little smarter, a little scorched, but you'll know exactly who to blame. Please welcome Steve Saka. Saka, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Fred. And, if nothing else, I'll walk away with about an hour of bullshit. So
there you go. There you go. Well, yeah,
you're gonna get an hour of audio vomit, one way or the other. So
one way or the other,
whether it's educational or entertaining, that's completely up to whomever.
I make no promises.
The beholder.
Yeah. I make no promises on this show whatsoever. That's why I named it Not a Cigar Show, because I really don't know where this is going to go. Hey, pick a number between 1 and 14 so I can decide what I'm smoking today.
6.
6. Okay. We are going with the Silver Mesa Salida Red.
Not a bad choice.
No,
worse.
No.
What was number 1 and what was number 14?
So I did every other on the Lancero. I had the Lancero package here. You also have Micarita, but one of the larger ring gauge one. You've got Red Meat Lovers, one Red Meat Lovers, old one Red Meat Lovers on the new Pertanga. Did I say that right?
I think it's Pertanga, but I listen.
Pertanga.
Yeah, I'll leave it.
I don't. You know,
I'll leave it to the Nicaraguans. They correct me on my pronunciation of everything.
Umbagog.
Yeah.
Did I pronounce that one right? I really
you got that dead on.
I really hate this industry.
Here's the other thing too: the Abenaki Indians aren't gonna come and. I haven't found any of them yet to actually correct my pronunciation. They seem to be pretty. They seem to be pretty chill. They're just happy that anyone's using an Abenaki word. Period. You know.
I'm not quick calling this. I'm gonna get complaints after the show. I'll bet. So all right, let me just start at the beginning for everybody.
Yes.
The rabbit's hole that is Steve Saka. A little bit of history in case you guys don't know who he is. And if you don't know who he is, then obviously you don't know cigars and haven't been on social media at all. But let's just deep dive a little bit. You started cigars in the Navy, right? That's when you started smoking cigars.
Started smoking cigars in the 80s.
In the 80s, okay.
Yeah, probably like legitimately started smoking cigars, not like down by the river with my friends kind of smoking cigars, but like legit smoking cigars would have been right around 1984, end of 84, early 85, right around that period.
So like down by the river, like you're really smoking cigars with your friends down by the river?
Yeah, Swisher Sweets and a 6-pack of whatever Swill Bill beer we could talk the clerk into selling us. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm surprised cigars were involved in that, but I'm gonna go with that.
They were Swisher Sweets. You know, look, we were delinquent white trailer trash poor kids, man. Of course, you know.
So you were so tell me a little bit about. I mean, we'll get into like where you are now and everything like that. But what you go into the Navy, you're still smoking cigars there.
That's where I really got started. So I enlisted in the Navy when I was 17. So I started legitimately smoking cigars right about when I was 19. I mean, I'd had a few cigars at poker games and strip club, that kind of cigar, but actually really started smoking cigars was when I was attached to USS Canoe FF-1056. It was a fast frigate. And once we started getting deployed on that, there was not a whole hell of a lot to do. So smoking cigars became a bit of a recreational activity on the fantail or on the helo.
So both smoking or becoming a cigar nerd that you just wanted to know
that was
everything.
Just smoking cigars.
That was just smoking. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't start to turn into a cigar nerd until probably the late 80s. It was hard to be a cigar nerd back then because there was no
true.
There were barely any books. There were no magazines. There was no internet. Well, I'm sure there was, but it wasn't like accessible to us regular old civilian people with our, you know, our Commodore 64s and our trash 80s. So, we didn't have, so yeah. So it was
So
really, I was just a little bit over enthusiastic cigar smoker, I think is a better way to put it than nerd, because you couldn't really nerd at that point. It was hard.
yeah, I mean, that was the times, good times. I mean, that's before we had an absolute expert in every single circle around where you could actually just enjoy the cigars for what they were.
Yeah. I mean, it was a totally different world.
So you end up going after that, just, we'll go full cigar nerd at this point. You're just like,
Yeah. Once I
I'm
got out
a-
of the Navy and I started earning a little bit of coin and I could piss away more money on handmade cigars, it was about that point. So it was like 89, 90 is where I like really started to kick it into high gear. And then I started to find my people on AOL.com back when it was
Mhm.
dial-up.
Oh yeah, I still got the minutes. I got some CDs if you need them.
There you go. And they were attached to everything. Remember that? Everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everything.
So, and then eventually I migrated my way off from AOL onto the Usenets, which is essentially a prehistoric equivalent to Reddit. But it was much more wild, wild west back in those days. It was really it was pretty much a free for all. And you had to be like reasonably technically competent in order to use Usenet back in those days. It wasn't like a website that you just go to and you click a link and it takes you to this message bulletin board. You actually had to figure out how to get into it, how to use it, how to access it. You had to download a client and you had a variety of different clients you could use to interface with it. So it was a very, like, when I first got onto Usenet and probably found alt.smokers.cigars, I don't know that there were more than maybe 25 or 30 of us using that. I don't know if I guess channel might be the right word for it. Whatever we called it. I don't even remember what we called it, but that's when it really kicked into high gear, because now I had other cigar crazy people around, mostly the US, but a few international people that, that you could now talk cigars with and, have a back and forth and discussions. I mean, every topic that every newbie has today, we beat the living crap out of it. Yeah, ad infinitum. And you remember, this is a time where there were no pictures. It was only words at the beginning. There was nothing. I mean, it was really, really bare bones. But that's where I really started to sharpen my geekdom, was then in the early 90s. And then it just kind of progressed from there to just become an outright obsession. And, then, about the mid 90s, I had started with a couple of friends of mine, we had started a cigar website, consumer website. We were like literally the first bloggers, but we didn't know we were bloggers because the word hadn't been invented for like another 10 or 15 years. I don't even know when the word blogger entered the lexicon. I guess probably when WordPress started to become popular.
Yeah, 2010-ish.
2010-ish.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2010, 2008, 2008 would have been my guess.
Maybe
But
2005.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, in 95, there was nothing.
No.
94, 95, 96. I mean, Cigar Aficionado had a really piss poor website. Smoke Magazine had a bit of a website. But I mean, at that point, most companies didn't have a website. There was nobody else. So, and kind of being the first kind of gave me kind of like all access to everybody, because at that point, the only other person they could talk to was Cigar Aficionado, right? And Smoke Magazine. Was there another magazine? There was the one that Al Goldstein published for a while.
Yeah, there was the regional one it started, I think, in Chicago. There's the guy that had several, like 4 or 5 regions. It was really good. I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah, you're right. What was his name?
I can't remember. It's
I can't actually see his face though. How
Yeah,
dare
yeah, 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 yeah. He had a really good one. He was focusing on the local scene and stuff like that, and he kind of ran it out a little bit. So at what point is this like? At what point do you realize like, okay, I'm gonna make money at this, or I'm gonna try to make money at this? I mean, what?
I didn't really ever think I was going to make money at it. That the whole
You still
web
don't think that. You
the
still don't
whole
think that,
the whole website was set up so that we could use it as a tax shelter. So
right?
me and my friends could write off all the ridiculous amount of expenses we were generating between buying cigars and,
Right.
traveling to cigar places and whatnot. So that's really what it started with. We set up a small company, and we ran this thing through that, and we just dumped all of our cigar expenses. And look, we were publishing a lot of content. We were
Yeah.
actually publishing like real content. We weren't regurgitating press releases. There were no press releases or any of that.
No, it's yeah. There
We were
wasn't.
like,
There wasn't.
yeah, like
There wasn't information.
we were like writing real articles on the best way to age cigars and the best way to store
Right.
cigars and how to tell counterfeit Cubans from non-Cubans and all sorts of in fact, a lot of the stuff that we published in the mid '90s, I see bits of it everywhere, all over the place. I mean, it's
Mhm.
crazy how much of what we wrote is still oddly being referenced today, but it's being referenced, what is that Kevin Bacon thing, right? 7 steps from
Oh,
Ke-
7 degrees of separation or something like
right.
that.
This
Yeah.
is like 22 degrees, 48
Right.
degrees. I mean, they have no idea that information originally was something that I wrote. Look, some of what I wrote in the mid '90s was just complete wrong. I
Right.
didn't know. And so we had exactly one advertiser. It was a company called Princeton Humidor, which was a
hmm
fake company that never sold a single humidor to my knowledge and never paid us a dime. But after 3 years of that, the accountant said, guys, you got to stop this. You can't
Right.
just keep dumping tons of expenses. And it's like, you got to show profitability,
Right.
the first 5 years, like 2
Yep.
years or 3 years. I can't remember what
3 years. I think it's 3 years. I think. And then
yeah,
you
I
can
think
start. Yeah.
it doesn't have to be like you got to make a boatload, but you got to show
Right.
something. And here we are. We're just like, I'm dumping 50, 60K of expenses. JC's dumping 100K of expenses. We're just
Right.
basically running this company that's just like literally it's a tax shelter. And so the accountant pretty much said to us, you guys, you either have to figure out how to make this profitable or you just you can't deduct it. And at that point, we're like, well, we're not doing this because I had no interest in becoming a cigar media thing. And so,
Right.
I mean, well, you can see look, you're in the grind of it now, right? I mean, you see what
Yeah.
you
It's
see what
different.
Thor did before, and I mean, it's really, really hard. There's very few companies so far that have found a model that actually
Mhm.
provides a living wage, much less actually makes
Mhm.
money, you know.
Mhm.
So I had no interest. So we just pretty much decided to just stop doing it like in 1998, I think, roughly.
Mhm.
But what ended up happening was because I was so all over the place, anybody that was online in any capacity they were like hyper aware of,
Right.
of our existence and all the stuff that we were generating. And one of those people was Lou Rothman at JR Cigar. And he asked me if I would entertain the idea of writing a book about cigars and tobacco. And when I went to meet with him about this conversation, about the book, next thing I know, a couple hours later, I ended up with a job at JR Cigar. Doing what?
Mhm.
I had no clue. Being overpaid, absolutely. And that was kind of where my start was. It was unintentional. But I was really lucky because I ended up at a place where I wasn't an employee, because I just wasn't willing to be an employee. And there's no way I'm paying the state of New Jersey income tax.
Right.
It's not.
Right.
And I'm certainly not going to comply with their gun laws. So there was no way I was ever going to actually become a resident of the state of New Jersey.
Right.
And if I'm not going to be a resident, then why would I want to pay the taxes? So I got hired as a consultant, and I had exactly one boss, and that was the head cheese, Lou Rothman. And I worked directly for him on whatever he wanted me to work on. And what that pretty much was cigar brands and product things that we were doing and the online retail space, because at that point there really wasn't a good one. I would argue that JR was like the very first functional online cigar vendor in a big way, completely it integrated with our real-time inventory system. It was like a real thing. It wasn't a shopping cart kind of experience. It was a lot less attractive, but you gotta remember, this is early 2000s. This is back when you used to make a website and website developers would charge you $500,000 to do an e-commerce site like we were doing. And I ended up, writing for the magazine, a lot of articles, and I ended up writing a lot of the pages in the catalog, handling the retail deals and, just doing product development on house brands. And because at that point, JR had so many house brands, there was always, 30, 40 balls in the air of stuff that we were working on to release, whether it be JR branded or whether it be Monte Cristo Afrique or La Excepcion, whatever, or El Rey del Mundo. So it was a lot of brand development. And
I feel like everybody has too. Yeah. I feel like everybody that's been around for a while, everybody's got a Lou Rothman story or something they've brought with them. It doesn't have to be a whole story, but is there something he taught you that sticks with you today still? Because I mean, he was definitely ahead of his time in a lot of areas.
Lou wasn't a guy that like gave you advice in this. It was more like just you're there and by osmosis watching what he does. And then occasionally ask a question like, why are we doing this? This doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
I think the thing that I took away from Lou was, you can understand, Lou loved the cigar business, but he was not a cigar guy. He wasn't. He was a cigarette smoker, number one retailer in America, but that wasn't so unusual back then.
No, not at all.
And so for me, I got an education from somebody that really, the product was really not the important part of the equation for him,
Yeah.
So, and look, and, as somebody who's a uber cigar geek, who's like just in love with all the romance and all the passion and, cigar first, tobacco first kind of mentality, it was a bit of it's like a real, like hardcore wake up call, to see it from the other side, completely unvarnished, no sugarcoating, no, like even spinning around the edges, just flat out. This is a commercial enterprise. This is how business is done. It's such a different thing. And so I learned a lot working there. And it's not that we didn't have some good cigars, but we also had a lot of shitty stuff that, we sold as good also.
Right.
But I think the one thing though, that universally was always true, and I think I hold this true today, is good and bad is obviously a personal choice, right? We all determine what we think is good or bad.
Sure.
So the one benchmark that everything has to always be measured by is value. Does the consumer that spent X feel as though they are getting their money's worth? Because that's just a universal truth that we judge everything on.
Sure.
Right? It doesn't matter what we're buying, whether it's a car or a bottle of booze or a pair of shoes. We all have this value equation in our head. And like taste, that's also varies too, right? But, the guy that was smoking our, 82-cent papayas, which were literally tasted like old sweat socks that had been rotting in the gym for like a month, versus, one of the higher end ultimate cabinets, which were really fantastic cigars that, at that point they cost like $4 or $5 a piece retail. I mean, I think those consumers, they would separate it out because heck, the one thing was less than 80 cents and the other thing was $5 or more. So therefore you can't do an apples to apple comparison. And also
True.
typically the guy that was smoking the 5.6.7s was comparing it with other 5.6.7s. He wasn't comparing it against, today's equivalent of like brick house or factory smokes, or, you know what I mean? It's a different price point. So therefore it's a different consumer. Or maybe if it isn't even a different consumer, it's the same consumer. That consumer has different expectations for what they get when they spend X amount versus Y amount. And I think most of us, other than the completely ignorant amongst us, I think we all come to that realization that, yeah, costs do affect quality. Now, at what point does it overreach that you say, okay, I don't get why this scotch is $182 a bottle. I don't
Right.
feel that the value curve is good for me. I have all these scotches that I pay between 60 and 90 a bottle that are single malts that I like just as much, and many of them better. You know what I mean? So, I mean, but that's the thing that we all individually do. So understanding that regardless of the product, that the customer feels pleased and satisfied with their purchase was a very important takeaway from when I worked with Lou, So that and just the sheer business of it. And honestly, I've never met anyone. Look, in today's environment, Lou would have to totally rewire the way he thinks. Okay.
Yeah, but back then he was the only guy that was even trying with any degree of
That is correct.
fermenting.
He was on the cutting edge of consumer engagement. He
Absolutely.
was on the, even online, he was on the cutting edge of consumer engagement.
Yeah.
And, no, there's no doubt about it. But like I said, cigar wasn't the number one thing for him.
So yeah, so let me jump ahead a little bit into what I know a lot of people are going to want to know. Walk us through your blending process. So where does an idea start for you? I know, so because I'm tying this honestly to your obsession, and I know you can spend years on a blend until it. So does the background of being obsessed hurt you more than it helps you? Is it? There's a very few people. There's a couple of people. There's a couple people in the industry that I look at.
It, but I mean, look, I get this all the time. Like, it doesn't matter. They're gonna buy it anyways. Why are you angsting over this? Why are you spending so much time? You know what? They may be right, but in the end, I can't help myself. It's just
Right.
the way I am. It's my nature. Look, my blending process has actually gotten quite boring. As I've done it over the years, I've gotten very, very systematic in my approach. So basically, it starts from one of three kernels. It starts from, I have a particular tobacco I want to use.
Right.
I have a particular flavor, genre, profile I want to make, or the marketing leanings tell you that such and such is doing really well in the marketplace. So therefore we need something to compete head to head with these such and such. I don't really have the last category, because if we do, it's me, I'm the marketing leaning. So, but I don't have anybody to answer to, where, like all the big manufacturers, they're getting their directions from on high. It's kind of the way it works. So for me, it starts with a particular ingredient, or it starts with hey, like in the case of brulee, I need a mildish, medium light, mild and medium Connecticut shade cigar, something creamy, something a little bit more easy for most, for the shade style smokers. So that's a genre. Whereas, something like Sin Compromiso is, man, I really want to find a way to use this Cultivo Tonto special San Andreas crop that we're growing. Let me build a brand around this particular wrapper. So regardless of which of those two are the impetus for it, pretty much it starts with me kind of making 4 very different core blends, which I think just mentally from experience is going to kind of get me to where I'm going. A, I think it'll complement this new ingredient that I want to use, or B, it'll be something that's more in the strong, spicy, whatever, because I want to make a strong, spicy. So I'll normally start with like 4, like really distinctly different core blends, just based off experience. And then I'll pretty much pick the one of the four that I like the best, and then I'll just keep tweaking it indefinitely. And when I do those tweaks, though, I do them in very large batches. So
Right.
in other words, I don't do a tweak and then wait 6 weeks and then figure out, oh, do I need to do this? No. When I do a tweak, I will normally off that core four, I'll instantly go into 8, 9, 10 different directions. I'll make a minimum of at least 10 of each. So it's enough for me to get some sort of sense. And
Right.
then, out of those 8 or so tweaks, I will then probably identify 4 of them that show some more promise. And then I'll probably make like 25 of each of those. And then I'll center on the one of those that I think has the most. And then I'll just keep tweaking it until I get to the point that either I don't feel like I can make it any better, or it's just such a muddled mess that I don't know where to go with it. That I've just managed to just tweak it into oblivion, and I've just kind of lost the message. And if I do that, then I just go right all the way back to the beginning, and just start fresh.
Start over.
Yeah.
What in your process of blending and staying on topic where we are, what's changed the most for you in the last 5 to 10 years? Because you've been around tobacco a long time. So what has been something that you've changed in that process, or you just changed your mind about in general?
Well, what's really easy is by being smaller. I have the flexibility to use a lot of materials that I never would have been able to use just because,
Right.
look, I mean, ultimately a cigar's blend needs to be consistent. And in order for it to be consistent, need to be able to secure the necessary materials. And so by being smaller, it lets me get into a lot of projects because you know what? Maybe I only have to make 50,000 of these cigars a year. Maybe I only have to make 80,000. Maybe I only have to make 10,000. Like you take something like Don Derma. I made like maybe 20,000 Don Derma last year, which is pretty big for an exclusive, but it's it's very manageable. You know what I mean? So it lets me do things where I don't have to think in terms of, okay, because when you're at a big company, one of the big five, you're thinking in your head, okay, we intend on producing 4 million of these, 8 million of these units. I need to be able to make 8 million of this cigar. And I also, hopefully that it's going to grow. And therefore next year, I'm going to want to be able to make 10 million. And the year after that, I want to make that. So that makes it much, much harder. Whereas by being small, I also have the luxury of being able to pick some of those oddball ingredients that other manufacturers couldn't touch. But most of those small manufacturers that could touch that, they don't have access to the people that have that. Because, most brand owners have really very little input, tobacco wise. They're getting their materials. Typically they're choosing it from the factory that they're using as their manufacturer. That's the most common thing, and so they have kind of their ingredients that they're available to them to make their pizza. These are the ingredients we have. Go make your pizza, these ingredients, where I have the ability to bring my own pepperoni and my own to the factory, but it's also because I have relationships with all of these farmers that I've managed to accumulate over the last 3 decades that works to my favor. So it gives me a lot more flexibility than most other folks. And it lets me make some things that, now, whether the consumer can tell or not tell, that's a separate issue. But as long as I can tell, I feel confident with it. The other thing too is I'm not price sensitive. I don't actually care what something costs. I build it out and then I figure out how much it costs to make it. Then I add a 40% gross margin to it, which ends up netting me at the end of the year. I think the best year I had was 7.8% net profit. I'm hoping to beat it. I don't know. Probably won't because of tariffs, because we never did the full tariff increase yet. But I mean, so for me, the cost of something is irrelevant because in the end, the consumer is going to decide whether it's worth it or not worth it. If they decide that Saka's whatever $17.95 or $18 CNH fiddlehead is not worth $18, then guess what I end up doing? I just don't make more fiddle.
Don't make it.
I don't make it because, okay, I can't make this cigar. and make a reasonable profit on it if the cigar doesn't retail for this much. And
Right.
because I'm pretty much at the stage of my life where I don't need economy cigars. I want cigars to be a good value for what they are, but I don't need them to be value price cigars.
Right. Right.
So, most of everything I make ends up floating somewhere MSRP between 14 and $20. And
Mhm.
the only products that we have that don't are the ones where I'm trying to take some of my materials and get better cost utilization out of them, like Omagog, like
Right.
uh, there will be something in Connecticut Shade sometime probably in 2026 called Lucky Postman, because I want to keep the wrappers a certain way on Brulee. I really like the
Mhm.
quality of the wrappers we use on Brulee, but I can't cherry pick that much wrapper anymore. So I have to buy much larger lots, which has me sorting, which now leaves me with materials that still perfectly good materials, all from the same
Right.
grown-ups, but they're just not as clean. They're not as pretty. They're just
But
not.
not what you're looking for.
They're not,
Yeah.
they're not Brulee grade as far as I'm concerned. So when you're in a normal factory, you would have another product for that, right? That's the advantage of having a factory is you can cut this
Right.
up and put in all these boxes. I don't have that luxury. So what ends up happening to me is I sell most of this tobacco off to other manufacturers, or sometimes I sell it back to a leaf broker. Okay.
Right.
And then they sell it to another factory. And I end up losing money because I end up paying the price of what it costs to begin with. And then I have to sell, it's already creamed tobacco, right? So
Right.
I've already
Right.
pulled the best stuff out, but you don't get paid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No. No.
So,
No. You've
so
already
in
sorted
the
it out.
end, if I can find a way to not sell broadleaf wrapper for my container purchases, and even if I don't make as much money, but I cash recover, it lets me keep the price lower on the product that I'm trying to protect quality wise.
Right. Right.
And so you end up with Umbagog, and now you end up with Umbagog Bronzeback, because now I'm getting away with using the 2LSs, which almost always got sold to the mass market guys or got sold to the bundle guys. And
Mhm.
they would just put it in a caldera and cook it really super dark. Right. And that's what they would do with it, to make it look pretty. In fact, I always say to consumers, if you look at Connecticut broadleaf cigars, oftentimes the ones that are $3 in a bundle look darker and prettier and more even
Yeah. Yeah.
than the
Right.
ones that are, Liga Privada for $19. I don't even know what a Liga costs, but it
Yeah.
genuinely is. But the reason why is because that's actually an inferior wrapper that's been put in a
Sure.
caldera and has been steamed to that pristine, beautiful, dark color. The
Yeah.
problem is all the oils from it are just dripping down into the
Yeah.
steam tray.
Yeah.
So you
They're
end up
gone.
with
They're
something
gone.
that's really attractive, but you also end up with something that's relatively flavor light in comparison to what the natural leaf was. So, and that's what we always did with 2LSs, because it doesn't really get Maduro-y in color. It gets kind of like this ruddy red brown oftentimes. And so me being able to take 2LS, and it's typically spicier, and put it on a variation of Umbagog called the Bronzeback series, and it
Mhm.
sells, that's just good. I
Mhm.
lose less money on the leaf, which helps me keep the prices lower on the
Mhm.
regular meat Rita, the turkey traca, red meat lovers. It's all interconnected. So I try to find homes where I can, where
Yeah.
it makes sense.
So explain, because I don't know if some people have missed it or not have heard it. Explain Cultivo Tanto to everybody so they understand
Oh
where
yeah,
you're
it's
coming from
pretty
with that.
simple
It's
concept.
it's sin compromiso, right? Is that
It's
is
on the
that the
Sin
line?
Compromiso. So the
Yeah.
Wrapper Sin Compromiso is a relatively common seed variety of San Andres that's grown in the valley. It's grown by Castilla, and it's grown by the Torrents, and a whole bunch of farmers grow this very common San Andres. And the farmer I work with grows it too, because we use it normally. What Cultivo Tanto was us changing the harvesting protocol, where what we do is, San Andreas is either stalk cut or it's prime in 3 lots. Um, what we end up doing is we end up stripping off all the bottom half of the plant's leaves just as they begin to sprout. And we only grow the top half of the plant. And the idea behind that is that if you have a stalk and a root structure that's dedicated to grow 18 to 24 leaves, what happens when it only has to grow 9 leaves? You know what I mean?
Right.
12 leaves. And it's the same thing as when you grow weed and you pick the buds and you prune the offshoots and you just try to focus. It's the same. It really came to me from, I was reading about those royal musk melons the Japanese do, where they basically have these vines that normally would support like 20, 22 fruit. And in the end, they ultimately only grow 1 fruit per vine. And it just makes
Right.
uber lush, uber creamy, uber sweet melon that retails for like $300 to $400 now. In fact, they got so popular that I think about 8 years ago, they stopped allowing them to be exported out of Japan because people globally, even though they were $400 a melon, they were buying them. And so it was really kind of just taking that general concept of a lot of agricultural infrastructure in the plant, fewer leaves to support. Does it make the tobacco heavier? Does it make it oilier? Does it make it sweeter? And it does. It makes it have a little bit more body, a little bit more richness, a little bit more sweetness. And we call it cultivo tana. That wasn't a name I came up with. That's a name a farmer came up with because we're basically throwing away the bottom half of the plant, which is really
it's like it's crazy crop or something. Meaning like you're not making the most you can possible.
It doesn't make any sense at all because they sell things by weight, right? They're a farm.
Right. Yeah.
And
Who would do that? Who would do that?
So selling the getting rid of the bottom half of the plant, it's not getting rid of half the weight. It's getting rid of almost 60%.
More.
It's like 2/3 the weight, right, is gone. And on top of that, it's actually more labor because now once you start pulling those leaves off, you're in a priming scenario where now you've got to visit each of those stalks every single week and pull the suckers off because the suckers start really developing.
Start coming up. Yeah.
So you literally end up paying like 2.15% more by weight for the tobacco. Tobacco costs a lot more. The thing is, I buy traditionally, same seed traditionally grown by him. And really what really kind of proved to me is when I was done with Sin, I had them make 50 with the regular San Andreas from him and then 50 with the Cultivo Tanto, and just told them, label them 1 through 100, but mix them up and don't give me the key.
Don't tell me.
Don't tell me.
Okay.
Look, is it in my head?
That's fair.
Look,
That's fair. I
I'm
like that.
Human. I'm
What a fun experiment.
So, and I could tell 100% of the time the difference between the Cultivo Tanto ones and the regular ones. And then once I was sold on the idea, I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And look, the consumer pays for it. The consumer pays, probably about $2 more by having that Cultivo Tanto wrapper at the retail, at the end at the retail register. Yeah, it's about $2 more is what it ends up costing that consumer. And they get to decide, okay, do I feel that there's a benefit for my $2 or do I not feel that this $2 over the hour to 2 hours a time, I'm not feeling the extra 4 cents a minute or whatever it equals. I don't even know 60. Yeah, it's probably more like 8
cents a minute.
It's like a penny a minute to 2 cents a minute, roughly, right? Depending how long it takes you to smoke. And if you as a consumer can't tell the difference, then there's no reason to buy it. But I can.
Right.
And so that's what Cultivo Tanto is. And that's one of the advantages that I have the ability to do those kind of projects because I have direct contact with the farmer.
Right.
The relationship, right? I also have the cash that I'm able to front the money necessary to do stupid stuff like this. And
you don't have a bean counter right behind you telling you we can't do this because we're doing 1 million cigars and here's how much less we're going to make. Yeah.
I have no bean counters. Well, I do. I mean, I have one, but I mean, her job is not to make any of the business decisions. Her job is to just keep track of how much money I'm pissing away.
Right.
And hopefully how much money the other side is bringing in. But yeah, no, we don't, and I'm not saying we don't do anything based on the numbers. Look,
Sure, you have to.
I mean, but cigar wise, we don't. It's more crap like I'm thinking about making these Saka Squatch plushies and I don't even know why. And I'm like, do I really want to spend $25,000 to make stuffed dolls? I mean, it's like, I look at it, I go, man, that's a lot of damn money, And
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so but again, it's not the bean counter. It's me just saying, is this really worth doing? But
Well, you know what?
normally I end up making the foolish decision and doing it, and I end up with a lot of crap that's like just irredeemably expensive, like crystal acid
but you have
and
wins.
cutters and
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to say on the cutter, I had to eat my words because I am not okay. There was a Davidoff cutter years and years ago that I loved.
yeah, me
Aged
too.
like way forever ago, and it's long. I don't know where it is anymore. And
They
I
don't
was
make them anymore.
oh no, they're long since I. But I remember when this was coming out. I'm like, I hate single blade cutters. So every once in a while, and I've used this nonstop for what, a year and a half now since Rocky Mountain last year. And I have not changed the blade, and it's perfect. So yeah, I'm down for these out of Steve's mind. Plush toy. Yeah, I'm out. I'm out. So, but this, if you guys don't have this cutter, absolutely amazing. Are they still available? Can people still buy them? I don't know.
Yeah. We don't look. I'm not in the cutter business.
No. But
So
it's a great exception.
I don't promote it. I don't care how many cutters we sell or we don't sell. I mean,
Right.
the cost of the cutters just went up. I mean, like by the time I'm like at $130 out of pocket per cutter. Okay.
Yeah.
We literally sell them for like 155 or something. It's
I
like,
don't know.
it's
Yeah.
like, there's like so no margin at where like all these accessories that people buy, most of that shit, the manufacturer is making 2 to 4 times their cost of goods on all of that crap, right? Well, we're just not in the. I mean, if we did that with that cutter would be literally that would be like a
$500.
$1,500 cutter, right?
Yeah.
That's what it would be. And but when I don't look at it as oh my god, look how much money am I making the cutter business, because I'm not.
Right.
Because the reality is most consumers are never going to spend that kind of money on a cutter. They just aren't. And it's really a very small group of individuals that are really into EDC and really like precision tools. And it's like a pocket knife, right? I mean, most guys will never buy a Sabenza or an MKT or a Medford, right? Now, do I think that all those knives are well worth the $400 to $600 that they charge for them? Yeah, I do.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But does it cut better than a Spyderco that you can get for $100? Not really. You know what I mean? Is it better machine? Is it hand finished? Yeah. I mean, I will say this. I don't think there's a better cutter on the marketplace than that cutter. I mean, even Luigi made one that was kind of a more expensive version. And look, it's nice. And
it's the same blade. It's the same blade.
Cutting wise, it cuts the same, but it isn't the same. It isn't the same fit and finish. It isn't the same feel. The tolerances aren't quite as tight.
It's the weight. This one has a nice weight.
Yeah, you're getting something that literally costs a third the price, I think, right? I don't even know, like 120 or something. So, I mean, yeah. And again, it goes back to the value question. Is this a value to you? Is this not a value to you? And since I have no interest in being in the cutter business, I just placed an order for like another 500 with him, I think. And it takes him a while to make them because he has to do so much of that by hand.
Yeah.
And I mean, he really tried to talk me out of stopping the gold fill on the logo, because doing the gold fill on the logo, he literally loses like 10% of the inventory to do that gold fill. I'm like, no, just charge me the 10% of inventory you lose. I want the gold fill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just don't care. And if the customer is buying it, if me doing the gold fill by not doing the gold fill means the cutter costs $15 more retail, then guess what? You're going to pay $15 more retail for it to be the way it to be. And because I don't think that the non-gold fill for $15 cheaper, people are going to go, if you had the two side by side, who's going to, when you're paying $340, are you not going to pay $355 for the one that just looks that much better?
Right.
You're in a different world, right? It's not the same as I'm comparing the $15 lighter to the $42 lighter. Okay, now we got a reason to look at this, right?
Right.
But yeah, so, and again, it's like all that stuff. I've gotten so much cigar swag. I know you have too, Fred.
Yeah, yeah.
Almost
Wait.
all of it ends up eventually, it ends up in a drawer or closet to eventually end up in the trash. I'm to the
Yeah, I
point
just
that
give it away.
I don't even bother with the closet or the drawer anymore. I literally just get stuff and I just throw it away. I can always tell them I don't want it. I tell them I just don't need it. But I mean, so for me, if the ball cap isn't of good quality, if the mug isn't of good quality, if the cutter isn't of exceptional quality, I want it to be where it's reflective of the brand. And the brand is, I like it to be good quality. So why would I not want the associated products around it to be of that kind of caliber of product? And, at the same time, I don't need it to be DuPont, and then everything be $1,500 and $1,800. But they're in a different business. They're in the luxury accessory business. I'm not in the luxury accessory business. I just honestly, ever since that cheap, so I had the Davidoff cutter and I had the Palacio cutters, but both of those got much worse over the years. No knock on Zycar, but I was never on board with those Zycar teardrop cutters. They always talked about how ergonomic they were. I don't believe they're ergonomic at all. And I always felt like they gave you a little bit of a choppy cut. Until recently, there were no good V cutters. V cutters were just awful back when they've improved vastly, but I don't like a V cut. I've always just liked a simple, clean, straight cut. And there was just no good. I mean, there were some high-end DuPont cutters, but they were like $300 to $600 and they didn't do a good job. There was a couple other French companies that had them, right? Cigar knives and whatnot. And they were $600 and up, but they just didn't do a good, clean job of cutting a cigar. So I've been wanting a good straight cutter because what I've been using forever are these cheap plastic ones. From the early 90s. But I mean, eventually I was going to run out and I needed something. It was really a personal need. And other people, that's why when somebody does it, it's a highway robbery and this, like, you know what?
Don't buy it.
Go fucking make your own cutter and find out how much it costs to actually make something from scratch, from tooling. And like you said, don't buy it. You're not I'm not even like I'm pitching it to people.
Right. Yeah, I have that with some lighters because I have some higher end lighters that I love, and same thing with some cutters like this cutter and other ones. And I'm like, I always get the guy that if I say, hey, I'm not a single blade guy, this is a great cutter. And same's true with conversation cigars, but you get the guy that pulls out like, I got this cutter for $1 and it works perfect. I'm like, hey, good for you. Then I'm happy for you. And this is not your cutter. Let me change gears a little bit. What's the deal with Lanceros? Why? I mean, okay, let's talk real talk. Lanceros don't sell enough of them. They're not, I mean, we love
they're commercially a disaster.
They really are. We love them.
It's really weird because I've actually, as much as I dislike Lanceros, two of the best selling Lanceros in the last 20 years have been ones that I have made. It was the L40 when I was with Drew for Liga Pro. And then the Now Leave Me the Hell Alone when I was with Dunbarton. And then, man, I sold a lot of those GFY samplers. It was crazy.
Yeah, by the way, if anybody, those of you that are listening on the podcast, I'm holding up a box that is the GFY Lancero collection. It's 10 different Lanceros, 7x38, I believe.
Classic size. No cheating.
Which I love. I feel like, and you can correct me because you're more of a geek on this than I am. I feel like Lanceros have had their shot. We've tried to bring them back over and over again. Yes, we all like them. Can we just move on to Lonsdales? Because I feel like Lonsdales
are way better.
They have way more real estate to make better blends out of.
Yeah. And I even like to cheat on those. So I do a lot of like 46 ring gauge kind of Lonsdale cigars, right? I mean, that's kind of where, I would much rather, you can do so much more in a 44 to a 46 ring gauge cigar. And look,
100%.
And honestly, I think it looks just as elegant when you smoke it. In fact, I actually think it looks better. I think the proportions. So from an aesthetic point of view, just all the way around, from a smoking perspective, from an aesthetic point of view, from a blending point of view, just everything about a Lonsdale, in my opinion, is a better option than a Lancero. Now,
Can we get a GFY? Can we get a GFY Lonsdale collection?
well, here's the problem. I have very
But not every
similar,
blend works in
but
that.
I have 6x48s, which I know is kind of a thick Lonsdale.
Yeah, but it's close enough. It's close enough.
But I had that in almost all of my product lines, which is really unusual because most companies will be lucky if they have 1, 2 cigars that are kind of in that format. 6x48 is not a commercially viable format either. For whatever reason, Dunbarton happens to do really, really well with it. I think part of that is because it's a size that I personally like to smoke a lot. So it's a size that I put a little bit of extra TLC in it because many times that's going to be the size that I'm smoking than any of the others. But it's commercial don't sell. Blending wise, there's no blending. There's no skill to them. It's just putting A with B and B with C and C with D and A with D and A.
Okay, wait a minute. When you say that though, I feel like there's a lot of blends that don't transition down to Lancero size
Most
very
blends
well.
don't. None of the blends do. In a 38 ring gauge cigar, you basically have room for 1 filler tobacco. So you have a wrapper, you have 1 filler, and you have 1 binder. And then if you geek it up to 40 ring gauge, you can then get away with a half a strip of another filler. But yeah, you have a very limited palette to paint with when you're in that 38 to 40 ring gauge. And then on top of that, you also can't do any sort of like fancy backfilling or any fancy tobacco loading or any brake repositioning because there's no room to do any of those kind of little jujitsu things that can help make a blend a bit more interesting while you smoke it. You don't have that capacity to do that in a Lancero. It's just, it has to be this from point A to point B. And here's
I feel like in the 46, like I'm smoking the Silver Mesa, the Sleater Red, which is a 46. I feel like you've got room in here to work.
Yeah.
I mean,
look, you have to cut materials down. Okay. You can't get a full leaf of everything, but you can really, in a 46, I can make a 4 filler blend in a 46. Now, can I make a full whole leaf 4 filler blend? No, but I can make a blend that's out of 4 whole leaves, but I'm gonna have to trim some of the tobacco in order to make it fit. But I mean, it's all tobacco, but you don't have that option in the small Lancero. So yeah, you have so much more room to play with in a Lonsdale format. You really do. And I think it just makes for better, more interesting cigars. And look, I think it's one of the things that, surprises me. I think that the Lancero collection doing so well is just proof of my general premise of Lancero smokers just tend to chase whatever the next Lancero is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's their thing. So they don't, it's not like with a Toro smoker, he finds 3-4 brands that he really likes and he smokes all the time. We're like, wow, that Mi Querido Robusto was really good. When I get low on that box, I buy another box. It's not the Lancero guys. The Lancero guys buy a box of Lanceros and they smoke 1 or 2 out of it. And then they put it in their Lancero shrine to talk about what a great Lancero it was. Then it's 20 odd years to never buy another one. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they're buying the next Lancero. So I think in some weird way that collection just tapped into that consumer mentality where, you guys don't like buying anything twice. Well, here you go. Here's one package with 10 different things in it. Get your jollies off. You're a Lancero geek. Here's a Lancero geek experience.
I feel like the people that bought that are either smoking through all of them or they're smoking none of them because that geek doesn't want to once they break one of them, you don't get that one back. It's not a box full of them. You go, hey, I'm going to smoke half the box. Anyway, enough about Lanceros. Tell me a blend that you killed late in the development that you still think about and why you pulled the plug on it.
And I tell you what, I should have pulled the plug on. I should have pulled the plug on Krakatoa. I'm still not happy with that blend.
Really?
Yeah, it's good, but I don't know why. I just find it. I'm not so happy with that one. In fact, that'll probably be the next Moester to bite it. And it's kind of sad because it actually does better sales. Some of the other ones, because it's newer. Like the way Moesters work is whatever's new sells the most.
Right, right, right.
But Krakatoa is one. I'm not happy. I'm not happy with one of the exclusives I did 2 years ago.
Hmm.
I want to retool the Halligan a little.
Hmm.
I want to revisit that one. Not again. It
Again,
was good.
that's your scale though. Everybody else is like they're smoking it, they like them, but it's not where you wanted necessarily.
Yeah, I just look. I did that with Frog Juice. I
Mhm,
think the Frog Juice 2.0 releases were way better than the first couple years of Frog Juice.
mhm.
Um, I did it with Don Derma, but because Don Derma was so well established,
Right,
I couldn't mess with Don Derma. I mean, he was already selling, every year,
right, right.
$1,000 with Don Derma. I can't. I mean, there's a lot of
Can't
good
mess
cigars.
with that.
Love it. Right?
Yeah,
It's a good cigar, but
yeah.
I always wished it was a little stronger, a little richer, a little this.
Hmm.
So I ended up making Don Derma, Golden Child as
Hmm.
a counter perspective to the original Don Derma. I think Golden Child is significantly better than the original Don Derma. But numbers wise, original
Yeah.
Don Derma outsells Golden Child, probably 2 to 1. Um,
Hmm.
so, I mean, now is that because Golden Child's only been in the marketplace a 3 years, and the other one's been in the marketplace 6, 7 years, so therefore it has a bigger built-in customer base? Or if I got a room together of 100 customers and I gave them both cigars, that, well, 70 out of 100 are going to actually say they prefer Don Derma over Golden Child. I don't know the answer to
Right,
the
right.
question.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And
they sell. So
yeah,
you're extremely active online with your cigar fans. Matter of fact, I don't know anybody more active on social media as far as a brand owner that talks directly to them. How does that? The obvious of how it helps you, I guess, is pretty obvious. How
yeah.
does it wear you? It's got to wear you out. It's got to wear
Well,
you out.
of course, it's exhausting because when you interact, people feel. I don't get every day. I get pretty much right around 100 DMs, PMs, and
Hmm.
I would say at least 25% of them start off with, "I know you're really busy, but," or some
Yeah.
variation. So it's like
Right.
they know that they're sending this to basically. I, I I feel bad because I can't even read it all, much less respond to it all. It's
You
a
just did that post the other day that said, I can't read all these.
I can't,
Five
and
of them came in while I'm writing this post.
that is correct. And yeah, I did a little screenshot. 5 came in while I was writing that simple paragraph. That dude, I just can't read it all. And
Right. But you
look,
try. You try.
I do. I do, which is also I'd probably be better if I never responded to any of them. But the fact that I respond to some, and there's no
Mhm.
rhyme or reason. A lot of it's just I'm at the airport. You know what I mean? I'm waiting for something. I've got, 10 minutes before whatever is going to happen. So let me bounce in here and just see some of this. And let me reply to a couple
Right.
things. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's that 24/7 accessibility that is very, very exhausting.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but it is also, you kind of make your own bed too. If I
Yeah.
stop being active online, then eventually that would probably go away,
Yeah.
right?
I feel like the ones I get where I have this, I've been around long enough and I started my brand when I had my brand. I was the first person with Twitter on the band. So I opened up the conversation and there's a lot of benefit to that conversation, but it gets overwhelming. I get the guy that sends me a picture of what he's smoking. And at the time it wasn't even my brand. Now it's a little different because of where I am. But in like, you got to get those. You're like, well, that I'm happy for. Well, I'm supposed to, how are you supposed to respond to that?
I have at least 10 customers that send me a picture of every single Dumbarton they smoke.
But what about the ones that send you cigars that aren't yours? That are
I
like,
get a
hey,
few-
I'm smoking. I'm like,
I get a
okay,
few of
which one?
those. They'll go, what do you think of this cigar? Like, how am I supposed to answer that question? I mean,
Right, right.
there's no, chances are A, I haven't smoked it
Mhm.
today, or B, that where do I win in this equation saying anything?
Right, right.
There's no good in it.
There's no
So
upside. There's no
yeah,
upside.
none whatsoever. But yeah, no, you're right. They send you all sorts of stuff. I mean, it's like, the thing is, like, even just how do I find a store in Topeka, Kansas? Like, dude,
Google. Google.
Like that's Google. It's like you go to our website, there's a store locator. I mean,
Right.
it's so, I don't know, man. It can be really annoying, but at the same time, you also have to be cognizant of the fact of being thankful
Sure.
that they're
Yeah.
actually
100%.
engaged with your brand, right? The dilemma is though, I can't reply to it all. I just can't.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I can dedicate typical days 30 minutes at most, maybe 45 minutes, you know, and you can always tell when I'm desk bound. Those will be the days that I go like really crazy in Facebook. I just like, cause
Right.
I just do not want to look at this production schedule yet again. You know,
I
I'm so sick of doing these numbers. Let me just go down the Facebook rabbit hole for about 20
right.
minutes and then 20 minutes turns into 3 hours later and I have this ongoing whatever back and forth about whatever. And yeah, yeah, you can, but like, I also like have to be really careful. Like I rarely post. So I'm in Nika like 10 times a year on average, sometimes 11. I rarely post when I'm there.
Mhm.
Because what I do, all that ends up happening is all sorts of people come out of the woodwork. Oh, you got to come over here. You got to see this. I want to show you that. Boom, boom, boom.
Right. Yeah, and
Just,
they get mad. They get mad when you're in town and you didn't tell everybody because I can't go over. I'm here to work.
I know that's the thing. And look, I'm there. I'm flying in on a Sunday. I'm leaving on a Saturday. I got 5 work days and I got a lot to do. And I want to pound through this stuff as quick as possible because I'm just always so far behind. So I don't tend to post that very often because it causes more problems. Look, anytime I do an event in any city, it causes a problem because then other retailers get upset. Well, why did you go there? Why didn't you come here? Why did you know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
it's like, so even doing events actually comes with more negativity than positive in a lot of ways. And the reality is there's only 365 days a year. And, you know, I'm the face of the brand, but actually I'm the blender, I'm the buyer, I'm the production planner, I'm the graphic designer, I'm the social media guy, I'm the business strategy guy, I'm the media guy. I got a lot of hats that I wear, a lot more than a lot of other companies. And there's just not enough time to hang out in somebody's cigar store for 6 to 8 hours and be their clerk for the day and, you know, entertain customers. I wish I could, that would be great, but I don't have the capacity to do it. So, but I've gotten out of most of that stuff. I rarely do store visits anymore. Very, very rare. I'm doing one tomorrow, oddly enough, though. It's, you know, local, close to my house. It's not actually my event. It's Yvonne's doing the event. She said, "Hey, you think you could stop by?" And I'm like, you know what? On my way home, I will stop by. But the reality is the very next day I have to fly to Phoenix. Right. And then I come back from Phoenix and I'm here for like a few days and then I fly to Florida and then from Florida, I then fly to Nicaragua. And next thing you know, we're like at December 17th or 18th or whatever. And then you're back into the Christmas break. So yeah, there's physically not enough time. Like for my wife's 60th birthday, I deferred it to January 1st. like literally like, okay, babe, I love you, but there's just no way I can do anything special for your 60th birthday.
Dude, that works out good. My wife's birthday is January 2nd. So I'm like, oh, perfect. That's a perfect time for you to have a birthday.
Yeah.
I love your rants online. So let me ask you this. Certain cigar myths, and you're a nerd as I am. You're even way more down the rabbit hole than I am, but there's certain myths that just won't die. What's one that just makes you roll your eyes the hardest that you're like, if this just never showed up online again, I would be thrilled. What's just a cigar myth that you're just like, oh my God, this is
the conversation about stems and filler, that drives me crazy.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Oh God, what else was I gonna say? I had something else right. Oh, the whole bloom, flume, mold conversation.
It's mold.
I mean,
It's mold.
That was been so just beat to hell. the concept that me cutting your cigar somehow changes the flavor of your cigar. I just say like, okay, dude, if you think that's true, enjoy yourself. But I just that drives me bonkers. Um, I mean, I think the general concept, and look, and this gets propagated by the retailers too. The fact that nothing is worth X. That's just not.
Right.
I mean, it's
Right.
just not true. Um, you know, I I think that there are plenty of cigars that I think are very good cigars, but they're just not good for me.
Right.
What I mean? And I can separate out what's a good product, a good cigar, but still doesn't mean it would be one that I like or one that I would buy or one that
Mhm.
I would probably recommend. Because the flavor profile just doesn't suit me. But that doesn't make it just this worthless hype thing. You know what I mean? There's tons of consumers
Right.
really, really enjoy this product. And I think that it kind of bothers me when I see consumers like that. And look, it's their right to do whatever they want,
Sure.
but it's not really fair. And I think that, when you're a young consumer, and I don't mean young in age, but in cigar experience, so you might be 38, 52, or wherever you start, you get pulled into a lot of that until you finally realize that I'm really just talking to some other idiot that really doesn't know much more than I know. So why am I heeding this person's advice in any way
Right. Right.
whatsoever?
Right.
Much less making a $200 buying decision on some random comment from some guy telling you that the XYZ that he got for $3 for 25 was a great cigar, best cigar he ever had. Dude, it is.
Yeah. Because Cigar Lover 6969 on Reddit knows way more than everybody else does.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've always said the measuring stick to qualify as an expert is just knowing more than anybody else in the room. And you're instantly an expert. And
Right.
that's literally, you just know 2 paragraphs more of information. That's 2 paragraphs more. So I think that, I see a lot of you know, less experience. They also just, the knots they tie themselves up in over, storage and humidity and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
temperature. And I mean, it's really, it's quite ridiculous, some of the stuff. And look, and it gets propagated on and on and on, and it never ends. And look, I still, today, I mean, only was like one consumer that I had it back and forth with about ribs in his cigars. So I sent him copies of everything I've written about it. And then I sent him copies of what Pete Johnson has written about it. And I actually sent him
Mhm.
a letter from George Padron explaining it. And he's still like, well, you guys are all just saying that because you have to sell it. Dude, I don't know what to do for you.
Yeah,
Sorry, it's just,
I've given you three really good opinions of it.
I mean, like these are 3 people that are actually intimately involved in how cigars are made. This is really the way it's done. You just think
Right.
3 of us are lying because we're trying to hide our inferior quality product. And it's just, it gets old. But the problem
Yeah.
is you have things that have been written in books and written in magazines and then parroted multiple times over and over and over again. And then these things ultimately become fact when they're not real. It's like the whole 70-70 thing. The only reason why 70-70 became a thing was because the best controlling agent we had was propylene glycol. And propylene glycol gave us 70. Before it was propylene glycol, it was salt. That gave us 75. So 75
Right.
used to be the number. Then with propylene glycol, we got to 70. Now with the ability to electronically control our
Right.
humidifiers, the reality is 65 to 67 is really the
Yeah.
much sweeter spot than 70. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but what you have is all these articles and all these books and all these things that are written that talk about, 70% relative humidity as being the ideal. And then
Right.
so, I mean, it's very hard to overcome that kind of stuff. Um, I don't have a lot of, condens for the band smokers.
Mhm.
The people that just smoke based on band and brand. You get some of those, Cuban only guys. Padron only, Opus X only, Davidoff only. And I don't know. Those consumers to me are just kind of like, who cares? They just,
It's okay if that's their profile, but that doesn't mean it's like the guy that says, "Oh, Cubans are the best." Well, okay, if that's the tobacco that you like,
right.
and you're cool with 2 out of 20 being constructed in a way that actually is smokable, and yeah, that's your brand. But that doesn't mean it's better than the other ones out there.
Yes.
Yeah, that's always a fun one. What's something you believe about cigars that you think most serious cigar smokers would disagree with you about?
Mm. Most serious cigar smokers would disagree with.
Yeah, just something you think that the hot a Saka hot take that you just think, look, I think it's this way. Most guys are going to disagree with me, but you've been in the trenches a lot more than a lot of these guys that are out there running articles or anything else. Humidity is certainly one that I think that's a very good example of one.
Yeah. Um, I'm stumped by this question. I
Okay,
mean,
that's
I
all
don't,
right.
I don't even know where to go with it. I mean, I think that, I think there's a lot of surprising things. I think most consumers don't realize that all cigars, regardless of size, tend to cost almost the same to make at the factory level.
Yeah,
Really, it's not a third the price to make a Corona versus a double Corona. It's really only typically
right,
between 12 and 15% actually cost delta.
right.
I don't think that, I think that the concept of vertically integrated isn't necessarily a good thing, because when you're
Hmm.
fully vertically integrated and you end up with a bad crop or a less quality crop, guess what? That has to get used when you're vertically integrated. You don't have the flexibility. You don't throw away all that tobacco. No, you have to find a way to use it. So whereas it sounds romantic to be vertically integrated, I actually don't think that vertical integration always produces the best product. That at times it's actually going to
Hmm.
produce an inferior product.
Hmm.
So there's pluses and minuses to vertical integration. Um, Look, I think that the romanticism that gets poured into the actual manufacture of cigars is really just nonsensical to me. It's 3 minutes in a 3-year cycle. The 3 minutes where it's between the Rolera and the Bonchero, Rolera and the Bonchero. I mean, they each literally, they're like 2, 3 minutes apiece, right? At most.
Right, right. Yeah.
And I mean, it's like, factories are places where good tobacco just goes to die. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's a place where they just create problems and mistakes in construction. Um, but I mean, that's the part that gets romanticized, the rolling
Sure.
of the
Right,
cigar.
right,
To
right.
me, the rolling of the cigar is, it's an exercise in mechanics and attention to detail. It's not some like uber, like, oh, crazy art craft. I don't feel that that's it. Well,
Right.
good cigars are made in fields and barns and pre-industry, more pre-industry than anywhere else.
Yeah.
And really the factory step is just, you're just hoping they don't muck up what you gave them. They don't choose take your filet mignon and your lobster and hammer it. You end up with rubber and juice there,
Right,
you know?
right.
Um, so I think that that gets over romanticized. I think that this isn't maybe cigar smokers per se, but I think as a general rule of thumb, I think most people perceive it as kind of the fat cat, wealthy, the patriarchal class are the people that are smoking handmade cigars. And that could be further from the truth. The
Yeah.
vast majority of handmade cigars are smoked just by your average next door neighbor that has a normal job, just like you have a normal job. And this is just, you buy your wine and he buys his cigars. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you've said before the cigar business is blue collar work,
Yeah.
and honestly, so are the people smoking them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's very blue collar work. There's no doubt about it. Um, I mean, for the manufacturing side, yeah, it's blue collar. I mean, even on the branding side, it's not the industry that it's portrayed to be.
right.
It just simply isn't. That's a very romantic notion. that really isn't the way it is. And so I think that but look, so much of the way things are marketed today, they're marketed on lifestyle versus product quality. You know what I mean? Lifestyle advertising has really taken off.
Right.
And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's the way these brands get positioned. And they're trying to target a particular demographic. As they pretty much all the big companies they put us all in little boxes of different socioeconomic classes, and then they try to tailor a product that's going to hit that particular socioeconomic niche.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that what else do I think is a kind of a fallacy? I mean, I think that thinking that most see, I have a much different. Everybody thinks like I hear it all the time. I heard a podcast the other day. Somebody talking about how these are the best. It was on Bear's podcast. It was all the cigars is the best cigars we've ever had, and I don't feel that way. I feel like we're in a sea of what I call non-player characters, NPC cigars. Cigars that they smoke fine, they draw fine, they're good, they're decent, but
Mm-hmm.
why? Why am I going to take my $5, $10, $20 and choose to smoke 95% of what's in the marketplace? I think the number of like really, truly like great products and they're at all the different price points, right? So they're there.
Mhm.
So it isn't just if it isn't over $20, it can't be.
Right. Right.
I think it just gets crowded out by just the sheer amount of noise that as a consumer, I mean, I always use this comparison, but it's like me at the potato chip aisle. When I was a kid, there were 3 flavors. There was, sour cream and onion, there was barbecue, and there was potato chip flavored potato chips. These were the 3 choices.
And we did just fine.
Right. And basically we would choose between Lay's or we would choose between Ruffles. And then if you were lucky, you might have Charles chips as an option, right?
Right.
And that was it. And now you go into the potato chip aisle and you're like, I can literally spend 20 minutes trying to pick out a damn bag of potato chips between all the different textures and cuts and flavors and branding and this and that. And I think that's the same thing that cigar consumers are confronted with. They're confronted with an awful lot of noise, and they're confronted with us, people on my end, telling them how it's so great. Because we all tell everybody our cigars are great. Nobody says, mediocre. Maybe you should buy them. I don't know if they're really worth the money, So you got retailers that tell you everything is great. I think that's the other thing too, is I don't think most consumers realize how bad their retailer actually is. I don't think they really, again, it's that they're an expert because they know more than you. So therefore, but the reality, 5,000 plus shops that have stand-up humidors or walk-in sizable stand-ups.
Mhm.
We're down to the point now that like maybe only 1,000 to 1,200 have any direct interaction with the manufacturer. And of those, I would say that less than 600 are actually like really engaged. And of the 600, if I had to like say actually like really good tobacconists that are like left in the country, I'd be hard pressed to come up with 200.
Mhm.
That's kind of a sad state of affairs. I mean, so much of the marketing has become, or the market, I should say, has become really just a retail clerk function, which is the same with the online guys, right? I mean, that's their function. Then they provide customer service and, more economical pricing on a lot of products, quick delivery to your door, there's a lot of pluses from buying that way. But at the same time, every cigar they have, they tell you how great it is. They don't really provide any sort of like education. Very few of them do to help their customers make an informed decision. I mean, that's really what a good tobacconist can do. Look, that is impossible in an online model. I understand, so I don't fault them. But I mean, as a retailer, that's the service that you can provide to your consumer, is to kind of help push them into the products that actually are going to be the ones that are best suited for them. And I think there's very few left in the country that are actually proactive in that way. I think they're just retailers. They could
Right.
be retailing anything.
Right. I'd agree with that.
It doesn't matter that it's cigars. It could be shoes. Yeah.
What, a couple speed round questions and I'll let you go. What's something you've done lately that is not cigar related that excited you?
I've done absolutely nothing lately that isn't cigar related. I have no personal.
Okay, let's go watches. Let's go fishing.
Well, as it is, I haven't been fishing in over 3 years.
Oh no.
Yeah, my first time my boat touched the water last 3 years was last week because I had to spread my father's ashes on a lake. That's the first time my boat's touched the water in 3 years. Last thing I did, Sydney and I took a real vacation, not this May, but the previous year's May. Or was it this year's May? See, I can't even keep it straight.
You don't even know. You don't even know.
No, it was not. I don't even know what it was. It was this year, wasn't it? This year.
Where'd you go?
We went to the Amalfi Coast. We went to Rome
Oh,
for
beautiful.
4 days and did all the Roman touristy things that you're supposed to do. And then we went to the Amalfi Coast. And the reality is that trip would have happened, but I had credit on tickets that I had to cancel for a cigar related thing that if I didn't use the credit, I was going to lose it. So being the cheap bastard that I am, I'm like, okay, I have this credit for tickets to Europe. Where do you want to go in Europe? And
So much for the romantic. I'm taking you to Europe. I got to get, it's like when your grandma had like the last 3 pictures of the film to like, let me just take a picture of you. I want to develop what I really want off this roll. Yeah, that's good. What,
was that this year or last year?
I had no idea.
Yeah, me either.
You don't know.
That was last year. That was 2024. Yes, 2024. It was May 13th through May 26th. It was 2 full weeks.
Oh, wow.
That's the last time that I did something for fun that was personal. I'm overloaded. I got way too much going on.
What do you want your legacy to be when you finally step away? What do you want it to be?
I don't think it matters. You get forgotten instantly from the point that you step away.
Yeah. That's a good answer.
I think it's irrelevant. I don't think
you're enjoying the process.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's the concept of legacy. Look, I think that's something that the Newmans and the Fuentes and those guys all think about that are multi-generational into their businesses.
Right.
It's not the way I think about it, to be honest with you.
Right. Right.
I don't even know what the end game is here. I have no clue. I mean, I'm old enough, and I've always said this. I'm not foolish enough to say I'll never sell because that's just to say never is just right.
Yeah.
You get, God forbid, I get diagnosed with some sort of cancer tomorrow, and I'm not able to work, and then what do you do?
Right.
So, but I don't have any grand aspiration. I'm really just trying to survive the short term. Like I'm way behind for next year's PCA. I'm like so far. I've never been this far behind. I'm absurdly behind. So I'm a little bit worried right now about 2026. 2026 could be really tough. But
you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out during the break for sure.
Yeah, well, one way or the other. The problem is now, I was one of the guys that always said they wanted the trade show in the early part of the year, that it made sense. I'm kind of regretting it now.
Careful what you ask for.
It's not, it doesn't work well from a development schedule because you end up middle of May and at the factory level, you're just trying to close out the year and get everything done that you don't have done yet so that you can start the year fresh. You then have the shutdown, which typically lasts like 20 odd days, right? And then when you first come back from the shutdown, you have you getting the factory started and rolling again.
Right.
It's also your busiest time tobacco wise. So, January, February, March are just crazy tobacco months that you really have to put a lot of time into tobacco and not as much time into cigars. And you throw in the Puro Sabor Festival, which really chunks out a good, I know for the people that come to Percivore, it's a 4 day experience, but for the people that are
Not for
there,
everybody else.
right. It's just like the PCA. You come to the PCA
Sure.
for 3 days, but guess what? I had to be there 3 days before it started. I'm still there 2 days after it ends. PCA is almost always a 9 to 10 day trip. When you're displaying at the size that we currently are at.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, time is the biggest challenge. There's no doubt about it. But I don't really think about legacy in terms of this is what I want to do. And I see, Fred, I don't know. Is there a future in handmade premium cigars long term? I mean, you look at tax, you look at tax, you look at regulation, you look at everything that's done. It hurts the larger companies less than it hurts the bigger companies. I mean, it's a system that as we get more and more into it, it's becoming I've always said it's a luxury commodity product. It's something that we're meant to purchase and consume. But it's becoming much more SKU focused, spreadsheet focused, and this is going to take even more. I mean, we have the consolidation of the large companies, but now we're in the phase where now looking like most of these larger firms are ultimately owned by investor groups.
Right.
They won't even be in any way attached to the business. They'll be literally just attached to the numbers. 100%. The numbers will be the only absolute thing for them.
Yeah.
I mean, well, you see it with what happened with Habanos.
Yeah.
When they got an investor group, the dramatic, crazy shifts that happened with Habanos, and they've just been bought up by another investor group. So who knows what the next investor group is going to ultimately be the best way to milk this cow. But that is what they're going to do. They're going to figure out how to milk the cow. And for them, the product is irrelevant ultimately. As long as the product sustains their profit numbers, the product is perfect as far as they're
right. What last question? What question do interviewers never ask you that you wish they would? What question does nobody ever ask you that you're like, why didn't anybody ever ask me this?
Dude, you know how many podcasts I've done? How many interviews?
I know. I can't
10
even
million. I probably
10 million.
I bet I've done 1,000.
I bet you have too.
I've done a lot. Yeah, I don't even know. I have no clue. It's very rare I get a question I haven't heard before, though.
Right.
That's why I always feel bad when people watch these podcasts, and they got to just hear me say the same shit over and over and over again. I mean, yeah, something that nobody has ever asked. Yeah, you're stumping me with these questions. I hope you have better guests than me.
And no, it's been good. Actually, we've gone way over. Tell everybody how to get a hold of you, where to find you, where to follow you.
Yeah. Look, we have a website, it's dunbartoncigars.com. It's a pretty good cursory primer to the company's products. I'm pretty much a Facebook only animal, and I do it under my personal Steve Saka account. I mean, I post a little on Instagram. I do no Twitter. I do no TikTok. I do no YouTube other than the podcast. I end up courtesy of folks like yourself that's how my big melon ends up there. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, if you're interested in my crap, I would probably follow my Facebook page. If you're interested in Dunbarton, yeah, obviously I'm good to follow. That Saka Squatch Consumer Facebook group is a pretty good place. We don't own it. We don't administrate it. We don't moderate it. We have nothing really to do with it, but it's a good place to get info about the brand, the product, because there's a combination of really educated consumers in there and new consumers, and then retailers who are big supporters of the brand. So you get a lot of info that way. But yeah, that's
perfect.
Yeah, that's pretty much
perfect. It. Well, hey man, thanks for hanging out. Everybody listening, thanks for listening to Not a Cigar podcast, Not a Cigar Show. And go to cigarpress.com to get more of these and more stuff on Dumbarton. And thanks for hanging.
Before we get off, hold up the magazine you guys are dropping.
Oh, all right. Well, There we go. This is going to come out in this week, the end of this week. It'll start shipping out to all the stores. This is the Essential 30 cigars. Spoiler alert, because this actually comes out. Steve does have a cigar in here. The idea of building a humidor. See, you're better promoting me than I am. I don't know how to do any of this. I really don't. I'm
It's also easy. Like I found that one question interesting. What was it called? The essential question or the eternal question? What was the tagline on the cover?
Oh, the eternal question, is there such a
Yeah.
thing as a perfect cigar? Hector at Espinoza is the one that wrote that article. Actually, I talked to him and I said, all right, I want somebody in the trenches to, because are we ever going to have is there ever going to be a perfect cigar?
No.
No.
Yeah, it's not possible. I don't even though all the cigars I make, none of them are perfect because sometimes I crave this one over that one, right? So
Right.
no matter what you do, there's always something. I think, what does happen though is I think that over time, I think through experience, consumers start to narrow their choices.
Mhm.
They get more selective. You know what I mean? They stop playing the field so ad hoc. And I think that for them, then I think their experience gets much closer to perfection when you get beyond all of that noise and you get to a point where you can like figure out, oh, I really like the flavor of this and that and that. And who's the person that makes that? What factory does it come out of? So let me start chasing those tendrils and see where it goes. And,
Yeah.
so I think there's a point that you can get yourself closer to perfect, but no, they'll never be perfect.
I think there's a perfect cigar for the moment, and just enjoy that moment.
Yeah. So that's a very cliche, sweet thing to say. I
Thanks.
like it.
Appreciate it.
That's a good way to end. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. All right.
Thanks.